This is a family chocolate chip recipe which I'm going to teach you guys how to make. First thing, you have to gather your ingredients. 1 cup of butter, which is 2 sticks, 2 eggs, 3/4 of sugar, and 3/4 of sugar. And then the next thing you gotta do is a teaspoon of vanilla and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of baking soda. The next one is flour, which it depends on the humidity. It can be around 2 3/4 of a cup to 3 cups. And then also the last thing you'll need is chocolate chips. The next step is you take the cup of butter softened and you put it into the mixing bowl. That's 2 sticks of butter. Next, you put in the 3/4 cups of sugar into the mixing bowl. Then the brown sugar, which is also 3/4 of a cup. And then you need to cream it. The next step is you have to crack the eggs into the bowl to make sure there's no shells or blood from the egg. The next step is to put a teaspoon of vanilla, and then you want to mix it again. The next step is to take the 1 3/4 of all-purpose flour and the 1/2 teaspoon of salt and the baking soda. You need to sift it in a sifter by just putting a little bit in at a time. And keep doing this until you're all done with your flour and your baking soda and salt. The next step is you want to put it into your blender slowly so it don't explode over your whole kitchen. Next step is you want to make sure this is the right, has enough flour in it, because sometimes the humidity or the weather can change your baking products. And so what you'll do is just, you want to feel if it's sticky, and if it's if it's sticky and it sticks to your fingers, you want to put a little bit more of flour in it. And still sift it. And just use probably about a half of a fourth, which is an eighth. And it sometimes goes up to 3 cups. And do the exact same thing as you did to the flour in the beginning. And the next step is to take your chocolate chips and pour about a half of a bag into your cookies. And sometimes you can add different kind of chocolate chips like peanut butter and even more chocolate chips if you want. It's really your decision on that part. And yeah. The next part is to cook your cookies. You can decide between a light pan or a dark pan. I prefer light pan because you can stick with the time on what it says, because darker pans radiate more heat, and so they'll get cooked faster, and sometimes it'll burn them, which is not pretty good. And so what you do is you take your spray, so it don't stick to your pan, and just spray it evenly. And then I like to usually take a towel on it and spread it, so if there is parts that I'm not not even, I can re-even it out, and so it won't also burn the bottom of your pan. Now that the pan has been spread out with the cooking spray, you can take a scooper and just scoop it on, which would make your cookies more even. But I'm going to use spoons to show you how it works. You just take a spoonful and you just scrape it off, and then kind of round it off as best as you can so it still looks presentable. And you keep on doing it, and usually for these kind of pans you can do a dozen on it, which is 12. And yeah. Now that you got all your cookies on your pan, put them into your oven. Usually you want it on your middle shelf, and then put it in so there's nothing touching it. And then you want to cook it for 8 to 10 minutes. The next step is you want to come and check if the bottoms are brown or just light brown, and if they're not falling apart really fast, which these are falling apart, so we're going to put them in for another 2 minutes to see how they work. Now that the oven is ended, you want to check it again. And you can see that they're starting to get nice and brown on the top. And if you can see, they're light brown, so they're done. And then the next thing you want to do is put them on a cooling rack and just take them off one at a time and make sure that they're not stacked up on each other, then they'll smush them down on each other. Now the final step is to look at your cookies and enjoy them.